from Wardwidge UK. And Wardwidge UK is a security company founded about 4 or 5 years ago to help parents keep their children safer online. And we started by doing a fair amount of research. And what we found was, let's go, excuse me, to the next slide. That work? No. Sorry, what we found was that only 20% of parents, as the gentleman earlier said, even understand the potential dangers online for the children. And I always equate it to when you buy a child the first bike, what you don't do is walk them to the main road and say, there's your bike, off you go and play, because it's dangerous and it's not safe. And yet from a really early age, we're giving children devices, smartphones, laptops, tablets, just to play with. And unfortunately, the internet is like the real world, and it's not safe for our children to be on there alone. So what we also found is, even looking to the big guys, the NSPCC and ChildNet and some of those big organisations, they all agree the internet's not safe for children. And they offer some advice, but it only goes so far. And parents have limited time, limited resources, and what they're trying to do is have a simple solution that they can manage and work with their children. Even ChildNet's report says that children understand the internet's not fully safe for them, but they actually want their parents to be more involved in their digital lives. They don't want to miss out on things, but they want a trusted adult alongside them who can help them on their journey. And that's why I met Jason O'Mahony there, who helped us. And we first of all started by creating this book, which we were pretty proud of, and I think it looks pretty good. It's got tons of information in there. It's got advice for parents on what the dangers are, what to look out for, how to react in certain situations, how to stay calm when they've seen something on the child's device, perhaps that's upset the child and upset them. You know, the natural reaction would be to take the device off them and lock it down and say, you're never using that again. But the reality of that is that most children will just get better at hiding things, and that's the case. So it has a negative effect for both parties. So there's some advice about that. And more importantly, we went a step further to say, yes, you need to lock down the chat functions or use the parental controls, or I prefer child safety settings because nobody likes to be controlled. But and rather than just say, use the child safety controls, we actually tell you how to do it. So you click here, there's a step-by-step guide. And then what we found quite quickly was that whilst the book was great, things changed very quickly, and it was difficult to keep updated and keep reprinting new ones, and it was expensive to produce. So we converted it into a digital book, and from there we made it a free digital book. And then last year we created a free app, and we're now working with the Greater Manchester Combined Authority to distribute that app to everybody in Manchester. We're working with a couple of banks to try and get some sponsorship to send it out to their parents. And we've got some other partners in the pipeline. We're speaking to the Isle of Man government. Can I just do the next slide? Sorry. Yeah, we're speaking to the Isle of Man government about going into all of the schools and educating parents there and doing the same sort of thing for them. And then what's next for us is we've asked parents what they need, and what they found is one of the most difficult things is if they found a problem online or their kid's been upset by something and they want to report it, it's really difficult. Big platforms, the big tech companies say, yes, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to support people. But the reality is they make it as difficult as possible. So we're going to create a new app which will be a simple reporting tool for them to go direct to the founders of the companies on the right page and report a problem. And then we're also building a risk management product platform for parents that will sit on the child's device and on the parent's device and allow the parents to see everything that the child wants to download and what game, and it will attach a risk score to that before the child is able to download it. The parents then can get a review of what the game's about, what the features are, what the risks are, and have a conversation with the child and put the settings in place to keep that child safer. So those are the things we're developing in the next year. And that's where our business is going. We're about to get the next round of funding. We've been self-funded to date, and we're still growing, and we're working with Jason and David to support their Safer Kids in South Africa as well. So I'm going to hand over to David now, who's going to talk a little bit more about what he's doing in the great work he's doing in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, so my name is David Mwepeng. I'm from the African Cyber Smart Network, which is a network of organizations in Africa that promote online safety. Through various means, we deploy various techniques that we developed out of a realization that the user, as the conversation is going nowadays, is the most vulnerable. I think technology is taken care of in most instances. Yes, on a regular basis, technology has been upgraded, but often the user is left behind. And we realize that one of the issues that was not being adequately addressed was user behaviors. I'm a cyber psychologist by profession, so I embarked on a journey to understand the psychological factors in user behaviors. What are the factors that expose users to online harms? So as the African Cyber Smart Network, we develop campaigns and programs that are designed to tackle behaviors, habits, practices that make users vulnerable, addressing psychological factors, addressing social factors, addressing cultural factors. And also out of a realization that users are behavior, they function according to habits and behaviors that make up who they are and how they live their lives. So we developed campaigns that are targeted at different groups of society, from students. We have campaigns that are designed for students where we work with schools. We travel around through our member organizations that are in different countries to conduct campaigns in schools, to conduct campaigns in communities. We have a campaign such as Cyber Smart Champions, which is designed for young people, so where we trained young peer educators, online safety peer educators, who then work with different structures in their communities to develop programs and campaigns and do outreach in their communities. They work with the police, they work with parents, teachers associations in schools, they work with just different groups within their communities. Campaigns such as the Cyber Smart Girls, which we developed and was funded by the European Union. And it was developed out of a realization that often the girl child is a lot more vulnerable when compared to the boy child. And therefore there was a need to address issues, challenges that the girl child faces in the digital space. So some of the campaigns that we have, like Cyber Smart Kids, we work with schools to deliver presentations in schools. Cyber Smart Parenting, a campaign that we launched to really tackle some of the issues that are coming up that have been coming up throughout this summit. The involvement of the parent. Often we hear parents don't have the time. So what we do through these campaigns is to make sure that parents, firstly, are educated, and the sensitization with regards to what exactly are the challenges and how can they go about it. I always argue that parents do have the time, they just don't make the time. I keep hearing about parents don't have the time, and I disagree with that. I think we do have the time, we just don't make the time. All right? So we have quite a broad range of initiatives that are designed to target different groups of society. We do quite a lot of outreach through media as well, through the different networks that we have. A lot of television, radio, in Africa. radio penetration and TV penetration is still very high. Yes, of course, internet penetration is growing rapidly, but these are some of the mediums that are very effective when you really want to reach out to communities. So we make sure that in our engagements, there's extensive use of the media, even using unconventional methods like having a theme song, particularly if we want to appeal to young people. And doing quite a lot of outreach in schools as well, working with artists and some of the community and societal influences. And what we do in our campaigns really is to highlight impact on well-being. Yeah. There are campaigns that focus on things like cyber scams and other harmful effects on whether it's economic factors, whether it's security and safety factors. But we focus on ensuring that we highlight impact on well-being and tackling issues from a psychological and a social point of view. Issues around entrapment, just young people becoming slaves and being entrapped into the digital world and just forgetting about the physical world. Issues around uncontrolled use of technology in such a way that it becomes addictive, impact on family lives, social lives, and all the like. So basically that's what we do in terms of ensuring that the message addresses this issue. And also the message is designed to ensure that people can relate. Some of the campaigns that we found when we started the program, we really focused on, addressing cybersecurity challenges without really delving much into highlighting issues that have to do with people's psychological well-being as well as social well-being. And fortunately, because of our media background, I think it enabled us to communicate online safety issues in a manner that people can relate with. Sometimes as a journalist, you are able to communicate things in a manner that people would easily understand rather than from a technical point of view only. And these are some of the issues that we highlight in our campaigns, just demonstrating what could go wrong if the use of technology is not controlled and measures are put in place and risky behaviors and risky habits are not addressed. So being journalists, one of the things that we understand very well is the impact and the effect of headlines. So we make sure that we demonstrate what can go wrong. If young people are meeting strangers on Facebook without thinking about what can go wrong if I meet this person that I don't know in person, and I've never met this person. Yes, we met on Facebook. What can go wrong if we meet in person, physically? So these are some of the things that we use to demonstrate headlines from around the world, just to demonstrate what can go wrong if parents don't step in. It's important that parents have an understanding of, when you give your kids access and these tools without any controls in place, what can go wrong? And really, our objective is to make sure that we facilitate conversations around these issues through different means, community outreach activities at a national level, working with different partners from the EU, from the US government, from quite a lot of other international organizations, and also at an international level, participating in international forums like at the AU, as well as international conferences like the inaugural Global Conference on Cyber Capacity Building in Ghana last year. So in a nutshell, that's what the African Cyber Smart Network is all about. We have member organizations in different countries, and we work to ensure that we capacitate these organizations using models that we have developed. The program started in Botswana as Cyber Smart Botswana, but now we have members and we've developed a framework which our members adopt and they roll out in their countries. So in a nutshell, that's who we are. I'll now hand over to Mr. Jason Mahoney to take us through the campaign that we are launching today, the hashtag How You Doing Online.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Okay, my name is Jason O'Mahony, and we're here today not so much to talk about my company and stuff like that. I just want to talk about a concept. Okay, it's really simple. I've delivered to thousands and thousands of kids, not just in Ireland but globally also. And from watching the kids, I can see that as a society, we're starting to behave a little bit differently online than what we do actually in the real world. So part of this presentation takes a bit of audience participation. I hope you don't mind. Okay, so I want to show you an image. And I just want to ask you, what's wrong with the image here? What do you see is wrong? It's fair to say, is this quality family time? It's not. It's not. And actually what this is called, when all these kids are on their own devices and parents, it's called being alone together. It was a term coined by Dr. Sherry Turkle. She wrote a book, Alone Together, and it explains why we expect more from technology and less from each other. And the book gives enormous insights into how easily humans can adapt to AI in a way that the AI becomes more important than actual real-world human contact. So I show this image everywhere I go. And I ask the audience, I tell them there's something really important happening in this image. Can you spot what it is? Can you see the most important thing in that image? Anybody want to take a guess? You know, people will say it's the phone, or, you know, the birds on the phone, the dogs on the phone. This is the most important piece in this image. It's this child's face. And if you look at that child's face, you can see that whatever experience they're having, it's not a positive one. This could be fear, anxiety, they could be upset at what they're seeing, but nobody in the room is picking up on that. Now, the first thing that I said when I came in here, or when I started speaking to you guys, was I asked you, how are you? It's the first question that we ask each other every day. I ask this of kids as well, but I also ask them another number of questions. I ask kids from junior infants, so the kids are 5 or 6 years of age, right up into secondary schools and into colleges. And the question I'm asking is this: have you had an experience like this online, where you felt afraid? Maybe you actually just turned around and said, my day would have been a hell of a lot better if I had not been exposed to this. And every single little hand is being put up into the air. So the next question then we'd ask is, okay, do you tell mom and dad, or sorry, should you tell mom and dad about that experience? And everybody actually says, what do they say? Yes. Do you tell mom and dad? No, the answer is no. Why don't you tell mom and dad? Because there's a fear they'll give out to me, or they'll take the device away from me. So what happens if you go to mom and dad and you tell them, I've had this negative experience online, and they give out to you and they take the device away? What happens then? If something bad happens to you, do you go back to mom or dad? And the answer is no. So we're in a situation here where you might only get one bite of a cherry as a parent with a kid. So that kid needs to be able to trust you to come forward to you. Now, the funny thing is, when you tell this to kids in 6th class or 5th class, that these were the answers that the kids in junior infants or senior infants gave, this is their reaction. They want to find the parents who are affording the devices to these children and pull them aside and say, why are you doing that? 5th and 6-year-old kids can see it's wrong for kids in junior years to have access to the level of technology that they have. So as adults, we must be doing something a little bit wrong. Now, like I say, the first thing that we asked ourselves today was, how are you? But when have you ever heard, or has anybody even asked you the question, how are you doing online? Nobody's ever asked that question. So for the first time in history, instead of evolving, we're starting to de-evolve. Because when people have negative experiences online, they tend to keep that experience to themselves. So what's happening is that we're behaving completely differently in an online environment to the way that we exist in the real world. If we go back far enough in time, here you've got this guy. Everyone else is in the cave. And here's some guy outside and does this bright thing. All the lads run out and they say, Jesus, Tommy, what's that? And he's saying, lads, this is fire. I just invented fire. And they're all clapping for him. They've never seen fire before. And one guy ends up walking into the middle of it to try to pick it up. Everybody around him at that instant realized, you don't touch fire. We still know that now. They get upset, they go to the top of a mountain. They've never been at the top of a mountain before. One fellow reaches the summit and thinks it's a shortcut and goes, wow. Everybody else that's around him realize, okay, that's not the shortcut. We can't fly, so we don't do this either. And we get to where we are today by learning from all of these little mistakes, and we're trying to teach kids to learn from all these past mistakes. So this hashtag that we're trying to launch, it's such a simple concept. Asking somebody how their life is doing, how they're getting on with their online life. That we encourage, instead of coming from a place of blame and shame, we come from a place of empowerment, so that if something negative happens to somebody online, that they're empowered to say, you know, this happened to me. Why does that benefit us? Because when we hear the mistake of another person, that then prepares us against that mistake. And mistakes are being made all the time. And whether you're 4 or whether you're 94, people are making their mistakes online and keeping them to themselves. So we have to kind of move around that, get some kind of a bit of a trend on this, to say, just as the way you'll ask somebody in the real world, how are you? We also start asking other people, how are you doing online? And that's the message I would like to see people take away from this conference or summit today, even if it's just one little thing that you change. And just see where we can go with this. See, you know, how far we can push it. That is the totality of the presentation for you guys. But if there's any questions, please ask away from either myself, Gary, or David.
I guess a lot of kids online might engage in harmful behaviours, and it's not quite clear where the agency is coming from. So it might kind of be something they're choosing to do, but their behaviour has been shaped in a certain way. So they might have negative experiences, but they might kind of say, this isn't something that happened to me, this is something I chose to do, and so I'm blaming myself for it. And does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But I suppose I can only go from my own experiences, okay, and from the kids that I'm meeting. You know, we've seen every kind of harm happen to a kid. But whether it's even just a simple experience of bullying, okay, it's not talked about. Nobody, like, people will go into it, they'll even talk about it in that environment, but when they come out of the environment, they don't. And if you look at the way adults and children behave, okay, parents will provide access to the technology. The kid will spend, we say, 6 hours gaming. And when they come off of that, the first thing that'll be said is, look, you're spending too much time on that. You know, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. Nobody's actually thinking, while you were there, how did you get on? you know, and affording somebody the option to be able to say, actually, okay, I had a negative experience. But the second and the most important thing that we need parents to do and to understand is that this is a one bite of the cherry. In reality, this is one bite of a cherry that you get. And your relationship with your kid will be dictated by whether you're going to be open enough to kind of say, it doesn't matter what you see, what you experience, you can come to me and look, that's not your fault, it's my fault. I'm actually affording the device. So we're going to make sure that we can lock it down and we'll move on from here. But if you go with the, hey, give it to me and give out, nobody wins in that situation.
Yeah, I guess something I'm curious about is how can we help kids who are maybe perpetuating harm online as well as experiencing it? So for example, cyberbullying, there's lots of ways that people behave online that they would never behave offline. They might be ashamed to admit that, and they might, in a few months' time, think, why was I behaving like that to that particular person? And are there ways, if you ask someone how you're doing, they probably won't want to say, oh, I was actually really mean to another kid and I regret that and I feel ashamed of that. So are there ways to kind of encourage those?
Well, you know, again, every place I go and I give a talk to, when I reach the topic of cyberbullying, the question I ask is it getting better or is it getting worse? Without a doubt, every single group will say it's getting worse. When I ask why is it getting worse, the reasons that have been given to me are more people online, more ways to do it. But when you do a deep dive into this, again, my experience is that when people get into this environment, they watch to see what's happening around them. And it's a survival of the fittest. You know, you might go in with one type of personality, but you realize quite quickly that, you know, I have to behave a certain way if I want to be able to stand up and it's look, that's the laws of the jungle. They apply out in the real world just as they do online. And you do get kids with developing, and it's a cyber psychological concept, with a cyber self and a real self, two totally different personalities. And I suppose it's important for kids to realize that, you know, the rules out here apply in there. And if we can't behave negatively, you know, in a harmful way towards another human being out here, well, we can't walk in there and then replicate really bad behaviors, even though we see other people doing it, because wrong is wrong if everyone is doing it. Right is right, even if nobody's doing it. But with the cyberbullying, what I'm seeing is that people aren't using the tools to report. Generally they're not. And like Gary said, you know,
I think, yeah, well, as an extra point, it is an excellent point. And a part of this campaign is around starting the conversation. Bullying exists, especially when it's never going to be reported, and there's no comeback for the bully. So they're behaving badly, and actually, partly they might not even realise, they might not care, but they're not being called out on that behaviour, and no one is saying that's not acceptable. So what we're saying is that all of the reports show that children who are having a hard time and being bullied on some of these platforms would still rather stay quiet and stay on the platform for the little bits of good stuff that happen to them than tell the parents and risk being removed from the platform or having advice taken off them. What we need to do is change that conversation and that narrative so the children can go to the parents as a trusted adult and say, I've had this experience, I didn't like it, what can we do? And the adult can react calmly and then maybe approach the child's parents and saying, do you know this behaviour is going on? It's not really acceptable, my child's upset. And have a reasonable conversation and start changing the bully's behaviour. And I think that's the only real way we can do it is, you know, not by being aggressive and stopping them and taking them offline, is actually explaining them and educating to the bullies the danger and the damage they're doing to someone else. And in most cases, most kids are inherently good. You know, sometimes they just know. We've all sent emails and messages that might have upset somebody, and sometimes that's a complete accident. It's just the tone of a mail or something, and someone's read into it, and then they've reacted, and you know, you get them mail arguments that have started from nothing. This is about communication, which starts, and then about education. And if you put those two things together, I think we would be onto a winner. Yeah, the app's called Safer Kids Online. You Safer Kids Online. I'll show you a link to it after this, and you can take a look, download it, and share it, and feel free to do that. Yeah, with as many people as possible, because it's free, and that's why we're encouraging as many people as possible to download it and share it. And it's got a feature where you can, if you've got the app on your device, you can share it peer to peer. Send it by WhatsApp, text message, email, or just it brings up a QR code and someone else can scan it from your device as well, so you can share it that way as well. Okay. Anything else, guys? All right, well, thank you all. Thank you. Okay, you can say that one.